When we think of the zoo, we think of a fun day out with friends or family, good food to eat, sunshine, and exotic animals to observe. What we do not think of are the behind the scenes activities that go into everyday life of a zoo animal. Zoos have a very long history of not benefiting the animals that are in captivity. In the past, they have symbolized wealth and status in a culture. Originally, it showcased the original wealth of a person, collecting exotic animals and having them on display to show their importance. Animal trade and public display of animals in captivity also held a place in politics and diplomatic relations between countries. They were used as gifts to one another in an effort to create harmonious friendships and alliances. Conditions for animals in captivity at zoos vary from being acceptable to being completely awful, depending on what profits the zoo the most. The welfare and stress of a captive animal is often compromised to benefit the experience of the visitor who has come to spend money and watch the animal in their environment. Money and the business of putting an animal on display is at the heart of what a zoo is and why it is there to operate in the first place. Zoos are a business that benefit the public for entertainment and some educational purposes. The animal in captivity does not benefit from being taken out of their natural environment and put into an artificial one. The history of zoos, the bad culture, and consequences of profit over care for animals are some topics to shed light on. The article Zoo Ethics, Challenges of Compassionate Conservation by Jennifer Gray reports zoos and their inception date back to the 4th and 5th millennia BC in China and Egypt. At that time, people would keep animals in captivity as their property to demonstrate their wealth. The animals were exploited for status of a person's wealth. They would hunt these animals, using them for targets and then trophies. Animals on display as an age-old tradition to show status. Animals were also used frequently for diplomacy between nations. Trading exotic animals between countries was appealing and a popular trend, leading to good diplomatic relations. While numbers were small, the trade of animals was a great diplomatic value and helped maintain relations between countries. In the 5th century, animal trade was expanded as new shipping routes were discovered. Trading routes opened access to foreign destinations and facilitated access to exotic animals. It is argued that the captivity of an animal in the setting of a zoo is very stressful to the animal. In the report, Why Are Enrichment Practices in Zoos Difficult to Implement Effectively by Aileen Tuitt, keepers sometimes attempted to fulfill multiple and sometimes conflicting goals concurrently. For example, keepers in some zoos applied enrichment to enhance the visitor's experience. The motivation often altered the timing schedule and routines of some of the animals, and this was a detriment to the animal and affected their enrichment. The animals' routines were changed to improve satisfaction of the visitor's experience. This practice has a negative consequence because the animal that is in captivity is reliant on a schedule to maintain manageable levels of stress. Changes to those routines are devastating to the animal. The second point to consider is the limited impact zoos have on their visitors. The takeaway message that zoos are trying to portray of being good for conservation and future welfare of animals is most likely missed by zoo patrons. The report Inspiring Wildlife Conservation Behaviors by Ashley Kelly and Jeffrey C. Skibbons reports, currently there is limited evidence to suggest the extent to which zoo interpretation programs are successful in instilling pro-conservation attitudes and a change in visitors, a change in the minds of visitors, with even less evidence to support the successful longevity of pro-conservation behavior changes. Visits to the zoo do not change visitors' perceptions about conservation and the importance of animal welfare. Keeping animals in captivity will not impact the way people care about preserving exotic animals. Smaller venues of animal captivity that promote themselves as zoos show the same kind of exploitation that larger zoos do to an even more extreme level. The conditions at roadside attractions are even worse for the welfare of animals compared to larger zoos. The report, The Bare Necessities, Why Captive Exhibited Animals Need Stronger Regulations by Emily Jenks, informs the quality of care animals receive at roadside attractions. Roadside facilities often capitalize on the public's perception of grandeur of exotic animals by offering lucrative hands-on experiences such as bottle feeding infant exotic animals and playtime with cubs and photo opportunities. Emily Jenks writes about the future of these animals when they are no longer young, playful, and manageable. One example is endangered gray wolf puppies. Jenks writes, once the puppies reached adulthood and could no longer be safely handled by the public, the fur farm killed and skinned them to sell their pelts for profit. Animals in captivity at roadside zoos are a commodity. Once they no longer are profitable, they dispose of the animals and sell their skins. Studies show that maintaining the appropriate habitat for an animal that is taken from the wild and placed in a zoo is crucial to the animal's stress levels. The report, Predictors of Psychological Stress and Behavioral Diversity Among Captive-Bred Pandas in Indian Zoos by Sohail Khan, making the captive environment more naturalistic by integrating enrichment into the enclosure seems to be a promising way of alleviating stress and improving both welfare and reintroduction success. However, this depends on the zoo whether or not they have the money to provide a suitable habitat for the animal. Zoos have a long way to go if they are going to provide the care that animals truly need to thrive in a captive environment. Space that the animals were used to in the wild is not really feasible for most zoos. History shows that the quality of care of animals in captivity has been a secondary focus. Money and other cost-cutting measures are at the center of zoo business, and it does not look to change. So, on your next trip to the zoo, take a moment to think about the animals in those cages.